Congressman Steve Scalise continues to improve days after being shot at a Republican baseball practice. The House Majority Whip's condition has been upgraded from critical to serious after undergoing another surgery yesterday. The Louisiana congressman was wounded in a shooting Wednesday in Alexandria, Virginia. The tragedy brought out a sense of unity at that congressional charity baseball game that followed, and it sparked some in Congress to say that a change in tone is overdue on Capitol Hill. I want to bring in Congressman Al Green. He's a Democrat from Texas. And Congressman, you echoed those sentiments earlier this week when you said that an attack on one of us is an attack on us all. So from your perspective, how do you mend the partisan divide in this country when even this shooting has been politicized?
If I may, let me send my prayers and my best wishes to the Majority Leader and his family, and also to those who are fathers and in distant places in the military. We appreciate them very much and want the very best for them. Yes, I did indicate that the tone and tenor of debates can be improved upon, but I don't want that to be confused with passion for principle. I think that we are still going to have our principles, our differences, and we are going to take these to the floor of the Congress. But my hope is that people who are paying attention won't take this out of context and conclude that dastardly deeds should be done because we have passion for causes. Causes deserve a certain amount of passion.
Now, sir, you grabbed headlines recently when you called for the president to be impeached. We have some of that sound. Let's listen to it.
I rise today, Mr. Speaker, to call for the impeachment of the President of the United States of America for obstruction of justice. I do not do this for political purposes, Mr. Speaker. I do this because I believe in the great ideals that this country stands for: liberty and justice for all. The notion that we should have government of the people, by the people, for the people. I do it because, Mr. Speaker, there is a belief in this country that no one is above the law, and that includes the President of the United States of America.
Congressman, when you call for the president to be impeached for obstruction of justice before the special counsel's investigation is complete, is that only fueling the division that you're seeking to mend?
Absolutely not. The Constitution is the place where we can find the call for impeachment. The Constitution under Article 2, Section 4 deals with impeachment, and it doesn't make an exception for difficult times. It doesn't make an exception for times when persons are having to deal with other issues that are of great importance. I called for impeachment because of indisputable facts. It is indisputable that the president said that he fired the FBI director who was investigating his campaign as it relates to the Russian intrusion into our election, into our democratic process. And it is indisputable that he fired the FBI director who was investigating these actions. These indisputable facts, coupled with the threat that was made, or at least a strong admonition by way of a tweet, are evidence of the president's impeachment. The president should be impeached. I still stand on it. And I assure you of this, my dear friends, at some point the president will have his cause brought before the bar of justice. The bar of justice for the president is the House of Representatives. The president will not be indicted and taken into a court of law. The president is not going before a grand jury. The president will have to come before the House of Representatives. There will be constitutional scholars on both sides of this issue. There were constitutional scholars on both sides of Dred Scott. There were constitutional scholars on both sides of Brown versus the Board of Education. The question really is, are you going to be on the right side of politics, or are you going to be on the right side of history? Are you going to take up a righteous cause and take it to a righteous place? The president has committed an impeachable act. The facts are indisputable. There may be some other evidence to corroborate, but the president confessed on national television at prime time. For those who would make excuses for the president, I would say this: The president was smart enough to become president, and he has to be smart enough to be president. We can't make excuses for the most powerful man in the world, the President of the United States of America, and he is not above the law.
Now, sir, you received death threats after you called for Trump's impeachment. When you saw the news about Representative Scalise this week, how did you feel? I mean, it had to hit pretty close to home to you.
Well, it did. And I'm very, very, very much concerned about him. And I'm also concerned about those other members of Congress who are on that list that was found. I want them to get the best protection that we have. I want to make sure that their families are protected, their staffs have to be protected, and I think we're going to have to expand the security to include our district offices. We've got to do more to make sure our staffs are protected because they are static. Persons are aware of where they're located, and they can be easily found. And people come into our offices more often than you might think and say very ugly things, and some of them will make threats. So we've got to protect our staffs. But we also have to protect the people who are at events where congresspersons are in attendance. Unfortunately, we've seen what can happen when a congressperson was harmed earlier and other persons died. So we must protect the people around congresspeople. I regret that we've arrived at this point in our history, but the reality is we cannot allow ourselves to be intimidated, and we have a duty to protect those who are standing with and around congresspersons.
Now, sir, I do want to get your reaction to this. There was a noose that was found outside the National Gallery of the Arts in Washington, D.C. just this weekend. It's the third time the same symbol of racial violence has turned up in that area in 3 weeks. What's your reaction to seeing that kind of thing?
I passed a resolution in Congress expressing my and the sense of Congress that we abhor nooses and we deplore nooses, that they are terrible things to display, especially as this is being done. I think that we have to take seriously these indications of hate, and I think they should be properly investigated. And I think we have to stand up to hate. I don't think we can hide it. I think when members are threatened, we have to come before the public and say it, and especially when we have a recording, because there are many people who don't believe and don't understand the extent to which this hate has permeated our society. We must not allow it to continue. We have to stand firm and we have to stand together. And again, when you attack one of us, you attack all of us. And that's not just members of Congress, by the way. That's every American. When one American is assaulted by a dastardly deed or by some person that may be deranged and may have done it with design, every American is diminished to some extent. We have to stand together against hate. Hate has no place in a democracy such as ours. Our country is big enough to embrace all and big enough to allow all to be heard and allow all to be heard without a fear of being in some way harmed.
A message of unity that we certainly hope continues through the political process as it moves forward as well. Congressman Al Green, thank you so much for the time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.